very warm good morning to everyone. Hope you all are doing good. I'm Anjali Yadav, privileged to host the 2-day workshop, and it's my immense pleasure to welcome you all, our speaker, our principal, head of department, teachers, students, and participants. The Department of Computer Science and Engineering has organized a 2-day workshop on programming with Python, hands-on for beginners, in association with IEEE chapter, SBTN Institute of Technology, Management and Research. The convener of the workshop is Mr. Animesh Dayal, Head of the Department of Computer Science and Information Technology and Chapter Advisor of IEEE Chapter. Our speakers for the workshop are Ms. Pushpa Chutel and Mr. Ratnesh Chaudhary. Ms. Pushpa Chutel and Mr. Ratnesh Chaudhary are the Assistant Professors of the Computer Science and Engineering Department, and the coordinator of the workshop is Ms. Roshni Talmale, Assistant Professor of Computer Science Department. Python is an interpreted object-oriented high-level programming language with dynamic semantics. Its high-level built-in data structure, combined with dynamic typing and dynamic binding, make it very attractive for rapid application development as well as for use as scripting or glue language to connect existing components together. Python is simple, easy to learn syntax emphasizes readability and therefore reduces the cost of programming maintenance. This 2-day workshop will introduce Python, the programming language designed to emphasize code readability. Learners will gain the working knowledge needed to start programming, debugging, and using Python in everyday tasks. We will cover the core Python language and the standard library in detail. The course will cover various skills including text manipulation, modular programming, working with and retrieving data, interacting with files on your computer. The goal is to get participants up and running with Python in a short time as much as possible. Before getting started, let's take a look over the syllabus of the 2-day workshop. The topic for the day 1 is basic Python programming and it will cover all the following syntax, prototypes and basic coding. The topic for the second day is libraries in Python and there are various libraries which will be covered by the speakers. So let's get started. I request Ms. Pushpa Chutel and Mr. Ratnesh Chaudhary to continue further. Thank you.
Hello dear students, my name is Ms. Pushpa Chotel and I welcome you all to the 2 days national level workshop on programming with Python hands-on for beginners. So today I'll be taking the session 1 of the Python programming, and in this Python programming day 1 session I'll be completing all the prerequisites as well as the basic concepts of the Python. So let's see what we'll be learning in today's session. In today's session, we'll be learning about the Python introduction, who uses the Python, what are the Python features, what are different operators in Python, data types in Python, flow control, and many more things. Okay, so let's see each one of them one by one. Now, talking about the introduction. So, firstly, let me tell you that the Python was created by Guido Rossum and it was created by him in 1989. And it's very easy to learn. Python is basically interpreted high-level general-purpose programming language. Python's design philosophy emphasizes on the code readability with its notable use of significant indentation. So in Python, indentation is very much important because like other programming languages, we are not using the opening and the closing brackets. So indentation is very much important in Python. And its language constructs as well as its object-oriented approach aims to help the programmer to write clear, logical code for small and large-scale projects. So in short, what I want to say that the Python is an interpreted, it's an object-oriented, it's a high-level programming language with dynamic semantics. Okay, so here in this diagram, you can see I have plotted the features which I have told you right now. This is object-oriented, it's high-level, and it is procedure-oriented as well as it is very much easy to learn. Now, the first question that arises here is who uses Python? So, here I have given the example of many big companies who uses the Python. Here you can see YouTube, Google, Dropbox, Raspberry Pi. These are many companies who are using the Python right now. The popular YouTube video sharing services is largely written in the Python. Google makes the extensive use of Python when it performs the web search on the system. Dropbox storage services code is and its server coding is also primarily written in Python. Raspberry Pi. Nowadays, the IoT is very much in trend. So, whatever the coatings of the Raspberry Pi, single board computer promotes the Python for its educational language. Similarly, here I have also plotted some of the example like BitTorrent, NASA, okay, then your NSA, Netflix. So there are n number of companies who are right now using the Python. They are using for the video sharing services. They are writing. They are making their services available. They are using it for the software purposes. So many more things the Python are being used by these companies, and when the Python is used by these companies, so definitely there has to be many advantages related with Python. That's where we are learning the Python right now. Now talking about the Python features. The first feature of your Python is it is very much simple and it is easy to learn. When we'll be taking the hands-on session, you will come to know that the Python is very much simple. It is easy to learn, easy to read and write, like the other traditional programming languages where the programming starts from the top to bottom, from the top to bottom type of manner. And for example, I consider the C language. So in C language, you have to do the writing in a completely precise manner. For example, you have to start writing from your header file. Then after the header file, you have to write your main program. And then after the main program, what you have to do, you have to first create the variables. You have to declare them. Okay, then after the declaration you can go for whatever the coding you want to do. Okay, so there's a properly systematic way in which you are supposed to do the programming. But in Python we don't have any such type of restriction. It is very much flexible and the writing and reading is very much easy. The second advantage is it is free and open source. Now, what do you mean by free and open source? Free means it is easily available on the internet. You can use it, you can download it, and you can execute it on your machine. Secondly, it is open source. Open source means anyone having the Python with their code, they can modify it, and with that modification, they can also create the freely distributed copies of this software, and they can read its source code, they can modify it, and they can do many more things. Okay, so basically, all these are the features of your Python. Secondly, your Python is a high level language. Okay, so one does not need to bother about the low level details, like you are not supposed to worry about the memory allocation, you are not supposed to worry about its garbage collection. Okay, so everything you are doing in Python is nothing but the Python scripting. You are writing the programs, you are executing it. Okay, so in the right hand side I have given an example. Suppose you have created one variable a and you have assigned it the value 3. Next you have used the variable b and you have assigned it the value 5. And after that you are performing the sum and then you are printing the sum. So when you are going to compile it, simply it is going to convert into the machine level language. It is simply going to convert into zeros and 1. Next thing is it is portable. Portable means it is supported by many platforms, like it is supported by Linux, it is supported by Windows, it is supported by FreeBSD, Macintosh, Solaris, and many more things. Okay, so it is portable. Next is it supports the different programming paradigm. It supports the procedural-oriented programming as well as the object-oriented programming. Okay, so basically the Python has the flavor of both the things, of procedural-oriented as well as the object-oriented. So here you can enjoy the programming with both the flavors. Next thing is it is extensible. Extensible means Python code can invoke the C and the C++ libraries, and it can be called from and C++ programs, and it can also be integrated with Java and the .NET components. Okay, so you can see it has a wide variety, and because of which it is highly extensible. We'll be learning the Python scripting. So firstly, talking about the Python script. What do you mean by Python script? Okay. So your Python script is basically the collection of commands in a file, and it is designed to be executed like a program. So basically your Python script is nothing but the collection of commands like it is in the other programming languages. Okay. And this file can contain the different functions. It may import the various modules, but the basic idea is that it will be run or executed from the command line or from within the Python interactive shell to perform the specific task. Okay, so what we will do, we will see about the Python scripting using the command line available in your Python. Okay, and we will also run this hello program in different IDs like in VS Code, PyCharm, and in Google Colab. Okay, so what my basic idea and the motive is to let you know how we can execute the same Python program in different IDs. Okay, so for that, let's go towards the each one of them and execute this printing of hello program in different IDs. Okay, so here I'm minimizing my all the background windows. Okay, so here you can see I'm having this Python command line. Okay, so if I'll click on this, you can see my Python command line is open. Okay, so you can see here I have used the version 3.9. So currently in my computer I'm having the Python 3.9. So suppose I want to print the hello world. So I will simply write print, and in double quotes I will print hello world. And now if I will press enter, it will simply print hello world. Okay, so whatever you will write within this square back in this round braces and within this double quotes will be printed as it is in your output screen. Similarly, you can use the single quotes, and in the single quotes also you can write the same statement like hello world, and it will be printed exactly in the same manner. Okay, so for printing you can use either the double quotes or you can use the single quotes, but better is that you make one assumption from your side, convention from your side, that you will be either using the double quotes or you will be using the single quotes. Okay, so this is the one thing. Second is you also have the Python shell script, and in which also you can execute your program, execute in the same manner. Okay, so whenever you will install the Python in your computer, there are different things get installed in your computer, like this Python command line, this ideally shell gets installed in it, your also gets installed in it, and through which you can execute your Python programs. Okay, so the same thing is available in here. Suppose I want to print the hello world, so I will write print and then I will type hello world. So see, it will be printed, and suppose again I am using in the single quote, it will be printed. Okay, so here I have executed this by using the shell, Python shell. Now talking about the different IDs, so let me first show you with the VS Code, your Visual Studio Code. I'm opening it. And yeah, one more thing, whenever you'll be executing the Python program, The Python programs are usually stored with the extension .py. Okay, so it is starting. So this is my VS Code, and suppose I have created one file and the name of that file is 1.py, and suppose I want to execute it, so I will write print, and in that I will write hello world. So now suppose I want to execute it, so I want to here click on this green button, and when I will click on this green button, it will be executed on my terminal and you will get the output. Here you can see I got the output as hello world. Okay. You can also write the n number of instructions here, n number of print statements here, like hello world, I am in Python workshop right now. So let's run it. See, this is printed as it is what you have given in the print statement. Okay, so by using the file, new file, you can rename this particular file. Okay, and with the .py extension you have to save it. Okay, and by clicking on this particular green button, which is for the run Python file in terminal, you can execute the program. Okay, so this is one ID, which is VS Code. Now for the second ID, here I will type in my search bar PyCharm. So the PyCharm ID will be open. Your PyCharm is also one IDE for running the Python programs, and this is basically designed by the Python community. There are different versions of PyCharms also available. You can use the latest version. It is taking some time to load. Okay, so again you have to go to file. You will select one new file. Okay, so here my one file is created as main.py. It is already created. Okay, you can also insert some another file by going from your file, and from there you can select a new file. Okay, so suppose I'm using the same print statement, and it is used for printing hello world. So for running this program, I have to click on this run button. So see, your output is printed in the terminal as hello world. So likewise, you can also enter your n number of lines. Hello, I am in Python workshop right now. Okay. So when you will execute it, it will also be printed. Okay. So this is the second IDE, which is your PyCharm. You can install the latest version of PyCharm. You can go to File, you can select New, and you can execute it. Okay. Now talking about the last IDE is nothing but your Google Colab. It is taking some time. Okay. So what I will do, I will go to Google and I will type Google Colab, and I will press enter. Now the first link we have to click, that is welcome to Colaboratory. Okay. What you have to do, you have to select a new notebook. You have to click on new notebook. So this is basically your Google Colab, and we will be doing all the hands-on session here in your Google Colab only. You can see here is the name of the file. Right now the name of the file is untitled 24, and it is stored with the .ipynb extension, that is for Python. You can also rename it. Suppose I am renaming it as Python Workshop Day 1. Okay, you can select any name whatever you want. Suppose you are selecting it as Day 1. Yeah, simple. I'm printing any program. So suppose I'm giving the name as Session 1. Okay, so I've stored it with the name Session 1. So here I'm having different cells available with me in the code area. I can type my code, and suppose you want to comment something, so you can use this text. Okay, this is basically not for commenting, but yes, you want to enter certain instructions in your program, then you can use this text box. Okay, suppose you want to note something, you can note it in the text box. Okay, so now I will print hello world. Okay, so I have printed it. So next what you have to do, you have to click on this button. Once you will click on this button, it will be printed like it has printed in the different IDs. See, so if you want to select a different cell, you have to click shift and enter. When you will click shift enter, a new code area will be presented to you in the next line. Okay, so this is all about the different IDs we have learned today, and we have seen how we can do scripting in Python by using these different IDs. Okay, so this is all about the uh, features related with the Python. Now, nextly, moving towards the operators in Python. So, when we talk about the operators in Python, here we have the total 7 operators available with us. The first operator is the arithmetic operator. Next is the assignment operator. Third one is the comparison operator. Fourth, it has the logical operators. It has bitwise operator, IDTT operator, and the membership operator. So these are basically all the operators associated with your Python. So let's see each one of them one by one. Now firstly talking about the arithmetic operator. In arithmetic operator, we have the operations which we can perform as addition, we can perform subtraction, we can perform multiplication, we can perform division. Okay, so here you can perform the different type of operations like addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and for this the operator you can use are this much. Next is the raised to the power sign. So if you want to find out the power of any number, so that you can use with the help of this double power raised to the power sign. Okay, so what basically happens is whatever the number you will be giving and whatever the power you will be giving, based on that it will find out the power of that particular variable which is on the left hand side. Next is the remainder or remainder operator. This remainder operator basically gives the remainder of the division which is left by the operator on the right hand side. Next is the division operator. Now this division operator basically returns you the quotient, and the quotient is basically in such a way that it is adjusted to the left in the line. Okay, so suppose you are dividing 7 by 3, so rather than getting 2.666, you will be directly getting 2. Next operator is your assignment operator. So these are basically this much assignment operator. Your first operator is your slash equal to. Next operator is your mod equal to. third operator is your division equal to, and the fourth operator is raised to the power equal to. So these are basically the shorthands. Okay. So suppose your x is equal to 5, and if you are performing x slash equal to 5, so 5 will be divided by 5, and it will be and the result will be assigned back to the variable x. Okay. So when we will print the value of x, it will print 1. Next is x mod 5 equal to mod equal to 5. Okay, so the value of x is 5. So when you will print the value of x, file will be modded with 5, and the remainder 0 will be returned by your x variable. Next is the division equal to variable. So value of x is 5. So when you will perform 5 divide by equal to 2, so the division will be performed, and the answer 2, that is the quotient, will be returned, will be stored in the variable x. Similarly, when you are using the rest to the power equal to, so the power will be calculated for the variable 5, and the answer will be returned as 3125. Next is the comparison operator. The comparison operator is somewhat similar that we used to learn in the other programming languages, like here we have less than equal to, less than, greater than, and then double equal to, which is used for, which is basically nothing but for comparing whether the two values are equal or not, and if the two values are equal, it is going to return the true value. Next is not equal to. So if you are comparing whether the two values are equal to each other or not, then it will return the values likewise. Next is the logical operator. Here we have total 3 logical operator: and, or, and, not. And returns the value of x if x is false, otherwise y will be returned. Next is or. It returns y if the x is false, otherwise x is returned. Next is not. It returns true if x is true, otherwise it returns false. Next is the bitwise operator. So bitwise operations are basically performed on two operands. So suppose I am having two operands as a and b, and if I am performing a or operation with b, so suppose my a is 7 and my b is 5. So 7 will be converted to its bit number as 111, and 5 will be completed to its bit as 101. So OR operations will be performed. So what happens in OR operation? 1 and 1 will be again 1, 1 and 0 will be again 0, 1 and 0 again will be 1. Okay, so whenever each of the value is 1, so it is going to calculate the result as 1. Okay, so likewise, whatever the results will be calculated, that will be again converted into its decimal value. Next is your AND operation. So if you have two value a and b and you are performing the AND operation, so AND operation will be performed similarly on their bit, and the result will be returned as the decimal number. Next is the XOR operation. Now basically what happens in XOR operation, if either of the two values are 1, then it will return 1, and if both the values are similar, then it will return 0. Okay, so here 7 will be converted into its bit as 111, 5 will be converted into its bit as 101. So you can see when we are having 1 1, it is returning me 0. When I am having 1 0, it is returning me as 1. So likewise, your XORing of 7 and 5 will be done, and the decimal value 2 will be returned. Next is the right shift and the left shift bit operator. So if I am shifting my value 3 by 2 bit, so first number will be your number, and the second on the right hand side operand will be the number of bits by which you want to shift. Okay. Next is shift by left. In this, the left hand side will be the value which you want to shift, and the right hand side value will be the number of bits by which you want to shift. Okay, so in the first example, the 3 was converted into its bit value as 0011, and when we have shifted it by 2 right bit, it was converted into decimal 0 value. Similarly, when we are performing the left bit on 3 and we are shifting it by 2 bit, so your decimal value 3 will be converted to 12. Your next operator is very much important, and it is identity operator. This identity operator is basically used for returning the true and false type of value. So basically it is concerned with the Boolean variables. Okay, so it will return you the Boolean value in terms of true and false. Okay, so its function basically returns the true value if the condition is true. Okay, for example, x is equal to 5, and if I am checking x is 5, so definitely 5 is 5, so it will return me true. Your next identity operator is not. Now it returns true if the operator is not identical. Okay, so suppose I am having x is equal to 5 and I am comparing x is not 5, but x was actually 5, so it will now return me false. Now the next operator is your membership operator. Here we have total two operators in membership operator, in and not in. In is basically going to again return you the true value, and not in is also going to return you the true and false value. So both will be returning you the Boolean value. So for example, here I am having one list, x is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So I am containing this 5 values in my list, and suppose I am checking whether the 3 is available in my list x or not. So I am checking 3 in x, whether 3 is available in x or not. So you can see 3 is available in x, so it will return me true. And exactly opposite is not in. So suppose I am checking 3 not in x. So since 3 is already available in x, so it will return me false, because 3 is available in x, and I am checking if 3 is not available in x, so it is definitely going to return me false. Okay, so this is all about the operators available in your Python. So now let's learn about the data types in Python. Your Python is basically a loosely typed language. That means it is not compulsion to define the data types before using any variable. Okay, so that's why it is called as the loosely type of language, and there is no need to declare the variable before using them. Okay, so in Python we have the different data types, and these data types are basically categorized into two types of categories, and these are nothing but the mutable and unmutable. Now they are categorized into these two categories as mutable and unmutable because there are some data types in Python which when declared their values cannot be changed, and when they after they have been initialized. So if the values cannot be changed once they are created, so those type of data types are called as the immutable. And if the values can be changed after their creation, they can be modified, then those data types are known as the mutable. Okay, so these are basically the two types of category in your data types in Python. In mutable, we have the data types like numbers, we have string, and we have tuples. So these are immutable. That means once they are created, their values cannot be changed. Next category is mutable, and in this mutable category we have list, dictionary, and we have the sets. Okay, so now we will move towards the hands-on session, and we will see each one of them in detail, and by the time we will execute it, I will explain you. So let's move towards the Google Colab. Okay, so this is my notebook, and suppose here I'm as I've told you, we have one data type as number, and in number we have the integer data type, we have the float data type, as well as we have the boolean data type. Okay, so as I have told you, in Python, it is very loosely coupled language, so there is no need to define the data type. It automatically takes the data type. Okay, so what exactly happens in Python is each everything whatever we are writing in Python is nothing but the object. Okay, each and everything is nothing but the object. That's why it is also called as the object oriented language, because it is based on the concept of objects. So suppose I'm using one variable x and I'm assigning it value 5. Okay, you can see here I have not defined its data type. So my Python is very much smart and intelligent enough to identify that if x is assigned as value 5, then definitely it is nothing but integer type of variable. So now my x becomes an integer variable. Okay, so suppose I want to print the value of x, what I can do, I can simply write x, it will print the value 5, or what I can do, I can write print, oh sorry, I can write print, and in that I can write x. Okay, so now if I will execute it, again it will print the same value. Okay, so this is my nothing but integer data type. I'm selecting the next cell by pressing shift enter. Suppose I have one variable as y, and suppose I'm assigning it value as 3.5. Okay, so next I want to print it value, so I'm directly typing y and I'm executing it. See, it is printing value as 3.5. Similarly, you can write your y in print. Okay, so the thing is, if you can directly print the value of any variable, why there is need to use this print? So this print is basically used for formatting your statements. Okay, so there may be types when you want to print the statements like the value of x is, and after that you have to print the value of x. So in that case, in that type of formatting, you can use this print statement. Okay, so let me tell you here. So what I can do, I'm writing value of y is. Okay, so now my value of y is, so for the concatenation I have to use the plus sign, and since I'm printing the value of y, I will write a plus sign, and now I will execute it. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, so by mistake I have put here the plus sign, which is for the concatenation. Okay, so you can see this is printing my value of y as 3.5. Okay, so your print is actually nothing for the formatting. Okay, so your print is basically for formatting. You can also the use the comments. Okay, suppose you want to comment certain line, so for that you have to use the three quotes. Suppose I'm writing, I am writing in Python. So suppose this is my comment, and suppose I'm using the three single quotes. So let's see whether this quotes gets executed or not. No, it is not executed. Why? Because this is it. It is treated as the comment. Likewise, we can use the uh, comments using your double quotes. You can basically this triple quotes are used for the multi-line comments. Okay, so you can also use the this type of triple quotes. Okay, so like you have used the single quotes, you can also use the triple quotes. I am writing again in Python. Three quotes. Now let's execute it. Let's see whether it gets executed or not. So see, this both two lines are nothing but they are treated as my comments. Okay. So suppose I'm taking the next cell. Yeah, one more thing. Suppose you want to see what is the type of my variable x and my variable y, because I'm saying, because when you're assigning the value x as 5, So it will be treated as integer value. When you're assigning the value x is equal y is equal to 3.5, so it is treated as float value. Okay, and by default Python understands and takes the data type. So let's see, you can check the data type of any variable by using the type. You can write type, and inside that bracket round braces you can write that variable name. See, so my type of x is nothing but int. Similarly, let me check the type of y. So my type of y is nothing but my float. Okay. Now you can also perform the addition. Suppose I'm performing the addition as x plus y. X is my integer value and y is my float value. And now suppose I'm printing z. Let's see. See, so the value of x was 5 and the value of y was 3.5, and in all the addition was printed as 8.5. Now let me check the type of this z variable. See, addition of integer plus float has assigned the data type float to my variable z. Okay, so this is all done by default. Your Python is much intelligent that it is taking and assuming the data types by whatever the value you're assigning to it. Okay, there's one more thing. You can check the IDs, that means you can check the address of any variable by using the ID function. Suppose I'm checking the address of x, so I will use ID of x. So it is printing me its address. Similarly, you can print the ID of your variable y. Likewise, you can print the ID of your variable z. Okay. So this is about the two data types we have seen right now, integer and float, which comes under your number data type. Now the next data type is nothing but your boolean. So suppose I'm having the variable a and I'm assigning it value as true. So the next data type is nothing but your boolean data type, in which we'll be having two types of value, true and false. So I'm assigning a value as true, but make sure you're capitalizing the first word because it is necessary, otherwise it will not be treated as a boolean value. And now I'm printing the value of a. So see, it is returning me the result as true. Similarly, when I'm checking the value for b and when I'm assigning it as false and executing it, it is returning me false. Okay. Now, one more thing, let me tell you. I've taken one variable z and I've performed the addition of integer and float. So, can I perform the addition of integer with boolean, float with boolean? Okay. So, let's see. Can I perform that? Okay. So, suppose I'm taking one new variable as c and I'm performing x plus a. So here you can see my x was initialized to value 5. My x was initialized to value 5. Okay. And now I'm trying to add my value 5 with my boolean value a, which is assigned value as true. So let's see whether it is able to perform the addition. And now I'm printing the value of c. So let's see what's get printed. The value printed here is 6. That means the value x, which was 5, is added with the boolean value a, and that means true is having the value 1. Okay. Similarly, let's try to add. Suppose I'm using d variable and I'm using d as y plus b. Okay, y was assigned as value 3.5. Y was assigned as value 3.5. Okay, and so let's see, and b was assigned the value as false, and so false is nothing but, let's see, so now I'm printing the value of b. I'm executing it. See, the value of y is as it is intact as 3.5. Why? Because it performed the addition as 3.5 plus 0, and so in all the addition is 3.5. So this is all the three data types available in your number. Now let's talk about the new data type. For that I have taken the new notebook. Okay, and now we'll be learning about the next data type, which is nothing but the string. Okay, so string is just like the any other string you have learned in the other languages. Okay, string is basically the collection of characters. Okay, so suppose I'm creating one string and my name of my string is mystr, and by writing equal to and in double quotes you can write anything. Suppose I'm writing working in Python. Okay, now suppose I want to print this string, so now I will write print my str. Now let's run it. It takes a bit time, maybe it's because of the internet issues. So see, it's printed that the string value is working in Python. Okay, so the same thing you can do by using single quotes. You can assign string to any string variable by declaring it in single quotes. See, so it also works in single quotes. Okay, I'm taking the next cell. So there are different functions associated with your string. Okay, so these functions are many things like you have different functions like my str, and suppose you will give dot. So you can see these are the number of functions associated with your string. So suppose I'm using capitalize. So since my capitalize is a function, I have to give my opening and closing braces, and now I will execute it. So since each my first letter was already in the capital form, so nothing happened to my string. My first letter was capitalized as it is to w. Okay, you have other type of also functions associated with your string. Suppose you want to convert this string to the uppercase, so you will write mystr dot. When you will give dot, here you can see there are the number of functions associated with this. So suppose I am choosing upper. Suppose I want to convert this string into uppercase and I am executing it. So see, my complete string is converted into uppercase. Similarly, and you can see all the updations are done directly on this string. Okay. Suppose you want to convert the complete string into the lowercase, so you will use the lower function, dot lower function, and your complete string will be converted into lowercase. Okay, you can also check the type of this particular list. So let's see, suppose I'm checking the type of my this particular string whose name is mystr. Okay, so now it is printing the type as str. Okay, there are also number of functions associated with your string, like you can use is type of function. Suppose I'm checking is digit. Okay. Suppose मेरी in my string, suppose is there any digit available in my string? So is my string a digit? No, it is not digit. So it is returning me false. Similarly, I can check in my string. Suppose is it having any ASCII value? So since no ASCII value, okay. So it is having some sort of ASCII values associated with. So it is returning me true. Similarly, you can check. So you can see there are a number of is functions associated with your string. You can use any of this. You can also check for is space. Is there any space in my string? Okay. So there are number of functions available with your string. You can directly write the string name, and after that you will press dot. So the list of functions will be displayed on your pop-up box. Okay. Similarly, if you want to find out the length of your list, so you can use the length function. Suppose I want to find out the length of my string, so I will use the length function. Oh, 1 minute. My name of the string is mystr. Okay, so my size of the string is 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, so there are total 17 characters in my string. Okay, so suppose you want to print any specific index value of your string, that is also possible. Suppose I want to print the value which is available at index value 12. Okay, so your string starts with the 0 index, as you know, and it is also having the different indexes. So by using the index value in the square brackets, by giving the index value in the square brackets, you can retrieve its particular value. Okay, so suppose I am trying to get the value which is available character at the which is at the value 12. Okay, so when I'm talking 12, so basically that value is available at the location, is available at the position 13. Okay, not at 12, because the index starts at 0. Okay, so there's also one type of thing available in your Python. You can perform the slicing on your string. Slicing means you can give the starting and the end index, and within that index value, whatever the value are there, whatever the characters are there will be printed. Okay, so here I have defined my string and I have given the starting index as 0 and the end index as 8. Okay, so my initial range is 0 and my end range is 8. Okay, so my end value is 8. That means before 8 all the characters in my string will be printed. Okay, so see, my string is working in Python, so the number of characters that will be printed is WORKING, and next 8 character will not be printed because my upper bound is nothing but 8. So let's run it. So you can see, okay, G total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, why this 6 characters are printed? Working. Okay, so properly my this string is split and it is shown in my output. Okay, so you can perform the indexing on your string. You can print the value available at the particular index. You can perform the slicing. Slicing means you can give the range, and between that range whatever the values are there in your string will be printed here in the output. Okay, so the initial bound will be the starting range and the end bound -1 will be the number of characters displayed on your string. Okay, so if you have given the end range as 8, so till 7 characters everything will be printed. If you are giving the last range as 10, so before 10 all the characters will be printed. Okay, so before printing anything, make sure which type of value you want to print. So before that value you have to print, then you have to give plus 1 as the last index value. Next we will learn about the decision control and the looping statements in your Python. So to understand the decision control statements and the looping in your Python, the first thing you have to learn is the range function. Your range function is a special type of function in your Python, and this range function returns a sequence of numbers starting from 0 by default and increments 1 by default and stops before a specified number. Okay, so here I have defined one range whose starting value is 0 and end value is 10. Okay, so all the value will be printed starting from 0, it will be incremented by 1 and it will stop when it will reach 9, because the end bound given here is 10. Okay, so suppose I want to print the numbers from 1 to 10, and for that I can make use of this range using the for loop. Okay, so let's see how it's done. So suppose I'm using the for loop, and here for using the for loop you have to use a special type of syntax. You have to first write for. Suppose I'm using the counter variable as I, and this I will be incremented from this range. Which range? 0 to 10. Okay, 1 minute. From 0 to 10. Okay, so since you are using the for loop, so in Python you have to give this colon after the for loop. This colon is used for the indentation. In Python we are not following any type of brackets, so it is very much important that you have to follow the indentation. Indentation means it's just like a type of tabbing, but you are not supposed to give it. When you will give colon, Python will automatically provide it to you. Okay, so suppose I want to print all the values in this range, that is in the range 0 to 10. 0 to 10 means all the values will be printed from 0 to 9. Now let's run it. So you can see all the values are printed starting from range 0 till 9. Okay, and which type of syntax we have used? We have written for keyword. After that we have used the counter variable, and the value of this I will be in the range 0 to 10. So this is about the range function, and this range function is very much useful when we will be learning the different data structures in your Python. So for understanding the different type of concepts, we will now directly move towards the list, which is nothing but one type of data structure in your Python. Your list is basically the ordered data type in which the elements are arranged in a sequential manner. They are arranged in the square brackets. Okay, and the values are separated by the commas. Okay, so let me show you how to create a list. So as I've told you, your list is a ordered data type. Everything you will be defining here in the square brackets. So suppose I am creating a list which is having the value 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. So now my list is containing the value as 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. Now suppose I want to print this list. So what I can do? I can directly write the print statement and I can print my list. So see, my list is printed. And now suppose I want to print the type of this list. So I will write type, and next in bracket I will write my list name. So see, it is showing me that the type of my list is list. Okay, And now suppose I want to print each and element of this list, so I can make use of this range, uh, or particularly I can say I can make use of this for loop. Okay, so what I can do, I'm going to print each and every element of this list using the for loop. So I'm again taking a next cell. So my list is already defined here. So what I have to use? I have to use the for loop. Suppose I'm using the counter variable as I in. What I'll be printing the value of I. Each and every value of I will be taken from my list. Here I'm not defining the range because now I'll be printing each and every value of list. Your list is again one data structure in your Python. Okay. Now, since I have to print the value, each and every value, so next I will write print I. So let's see whether it prints or not. So see, we are printing each and every value of your list using the for loop. So suppose now I want to create one small program and I want to check whether the values in my this particular list is even or odd. Okay, now before moving towards that program, let me first show you that in list also indexing is done. Okay, so suppose I want to print the zeroth element of your list. It is showing me 10. So indexing is also there in your list, and the indexing starts from the 0 and it goes by, incremented by 1. So suppose I want to print the fifth element of my list. Okay, so fifth element means will be the sixth element, but since in my list there are no sixth element, so suppose I am printing the fourth element of my list. So see, it is printing the last value as 50 because the index starts with 0. So 10 is having the index 0, 20 is having the index 1, 30 is having the index 2, 40 is having the index 4, and 50 is having the index 4. Similarly, you can perform the slicing in the list. Suppose I want to print the values from 0 to 2. Okay, see, I am printing list value in slice manner, and my starting range is 0 and my end range is 2. End range is 2, that means that end range minus 1 values will be printed on my this particular list. Suppose I am printing it, so my values which will be printed are 10 and 20 because my last range was 2. So slicing is also possible. And now if you want to print the last element of your list, and if you don't know what is the length of my list, then you can use the negative indexing. Okay, suppose I want to print the last element. 1 minute. Suppose I want to print the last element. So see, my last element I can print by using the minus index. So by using the minus index, minus 1 index is assigned to your last element in the list. Similarly, you can again print the next negative range. You can print at the minus 3 range. So see, at the minus 3 value, this is at the minus 1, this is at the minus 2, and the 30 is at minus 3 range. Okay, so this is also possible. Negative indexing is also possible. Okay, in your list. Now suppose I want to create one small program based on this list. Suppose I am creating one list as list 1, and it is having value as 10, 21, 30, 45 and 60. Okay, so suppose I have created one list and I am having this values in my list, and suppose I want to create one small program and I want to check whether the elements in my list are even or odd. Okay, so that I can do by using the conditional statement, which is nothing but if and else. So suppose I am having this particular list, I am firstly printing my this list. list 1. Okay, this is just for the printing purpose. I am printing it, and now suppose I want to apply the logic that each and every element of this list will be checked whether it is even or odd and will be printed. Okay, so what I have to use first? I have to use a for loop. Suppose I am using for I in my list 1. I am giving the indentation as colon. Okay, so next, since I have to perform the checking operation, so for checking the even or not, I have to do the mod operation. Okay, suppose I'm checking if my I, for mod operation we use the mod sign. If I mod 2 is equal to 1. Okay, if my remainder comes as 1, then what I'm going to print? I'm going to print I is odd. Okay, what is odd? My I is odd. Okay, so I want to print the value of I, so I will give I, and then in double quotes I will write is odd. Okay, next, in the else part, you have to be very careful. Your else should be exactly after the else statement, should be exactly below the your else should be exactly below the if statement. That means the I should be exactly below the E in the line whichever you are writing the else. Okay, so else part will print I is even. Okay, so now let's try to run it. So let's see. Firstly, I have printed my list. I have printed my complete list, and next I am checking whether my each value is even or odd. So see, it is printing 10 is even, 21 is odd, 30 is even, 45 is odd, and 60 is even. Okay, so you can see the program that you might have created in your C language might be of 10 to 10, almost 10 lines of code in your C language, but here in Python it is very much optimized because of the flexibility in programming. The code is very much reduced in your Python as compared to the other programming languages. Okay, so this type of modularity you get in Python, and since it is a procedural and it is very much loosely bounded, so you are not supposed to worry about anything. So this is all about the data structure, that is nothing but the list. List is ordered data structure and it is immutable. We will learn about the tuples. Tuples is your second data structure in your Python. Your tuple is ordered and it is unchangeable. The elements in your tuples cannot be changed. And the second thing is it cannot be changed, and the thing is it cannot be modified. So let's see what is your tuple. So for defining the tuple, you have to give the name of that tuple. Suppose I'm using the tuple name as my tuple, and you can create the tuple by the this round braces. Okay, so you can define the number. Suppose I'm defining the number as 10. You can use the collection of integer, float, as well as you can use the character. Suppose I'm using here grapes. Okay, and so you can have the collection of anything. Similarly, in list also you can have the collection of integer, float, character, anything. Okay, so suppose I'm and yeah, one more thing, in tuple the duplicate entries are allowed. So suppose I'm again entering the value as 10. So let's see, I'm printing my tuple. So let's see whether it prints or not. Okay, so see, in tuples the duplicate entries are allowed. Now next what we can do, all the operations that we have performed in the list are allowed in your tuple also. Okay, so see, here in list we have done all those things. Okay, like uh, we have printed the value of tuple. Okay, so here also we will try to print the values in tuple. Now I will use the for loop by using the I variable, and my tuple name is my tuple. Okay, so now I will try to print each and every value using the counter variable I. Okay, so see, now my each and every values are printed here. I can also perform the indexing here. The first value in my tuple is having the index 0, and it gets incremented one by one. Okay, so similarly I can print each and every value using the index. Okay, so suppose I want to print the zeroth index value. So though my tuple assignment is done using the round braces, but for the indexes I have to use this square bracket. Okay, suppose I am printing the first zeroth element of my tuple, so I have to use this square braces. Okay, so at my zeroth value in my tuple, the value stored is 10. Okay, so 10 is at the index value 0, 20.3 is at the index value 1, grapes, this complete value is at the index 3, and 45 value 4, and 10 at value 5, and so on. Okay, similarly you can do the slicing using the indexes in your tuple. Suppose I'm performing the slicing from the 0 index. Suppose I want to print all the values, then you can give the starting index, and the end index you will keep as blank. So see, all the values starting from 0 till the last index are printed. Similarly, if you want to print the last value, you can use the negative indexing. Suppose I want to print the last value 10, so that is possible by using the negative index. Similarly, if I want to print values from specific range, then I will give their indexes using the slicing. Okay, so suppose I want to print some specific values, so I have to give the index. Suppose I want to print value starting from 0 till my third. Suppose I want to print 10, 20, and this 20.3 and grapes. Suppose I want to print these three values. Okay, so this is my 0 index, this is my first index, this is my second index. So till second index I have to print all the value. So my last bound will be 3. Okay, so let's run it. So my values from 0 till 2, all the values are printed here. Okay. Similarly, if you want to remove any element from your list is also from your tuple is also possible. Similarly, removing the last element is also possible. Okay, and you can remove the last element by using the pop function. Suppose this is my tuple, and suppose I want to remove the last element, then I can make use of, you can see there are number of functions available here. Suppose I'm having the pop function. So let's see whether it works or not. Okay. So in my tuple, the pop function is not working. One more time, let me try to print my tuple. Dot. See, so it is not giving me that particular function for tuple. Fine. Suppose I'm trying to remove, so that is not also available here in your tuples. Okay. So what you can do, you can print all the values by using your negative and the positive indexes. Okay, so suppose you want to print all the value till your last index, that is -1, that is also possible. So all the values will be printed except your last negative index, which is nothing but the -1. So all the functions that you have performed on your in your list is also applicable in your tuple. tuple is also having the values which is whose index is starting from 0. Its elements can be accessed from the endpoint by using the negative index. You can print each and every values of your tuple. You can print the individual element of your tuple by using the index value. Okay, duplicates values are also allowed in your tuples. Okay, secondly, you can print this specific value by performing the slicing operation. Now the next data type that we'll be learning is the sets. Your sets is basically the collection of the items which are unordered and unindexed. Your tuples and the list were the ordered sets and they were index 1, and in list the duplicate entries were allowed, but in tuples the duplicate entries were not allowed. Okay, so now we will talk about the sets. Okay, so when you want to create the set, suppose I am creating one set variable name as my set. So you have to give the this type of curly braces and you have to separate it by the commas. Suppose I am entering the values as 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and 60. So suppose I want to print my tuple. So now I will write print my set. So now I will simply write my set. So all the values of my set will be visible. Okay. So the list are the data structure which are in the square brackets. Your tuples are the data types which is given in the round braces, and in my set we will give the curly braces. Okay, and each values will be separated by the commas. Okay, suppose you want to add the values in this list, so that is also possible. You can modify it. You can use the add function. Suppose you want to add the value 35 in your list, so you will add the 35 and next you will print the my set. See, so the value 35 is added in your list. Similarly, if you want to remove any element from the list, any specific element from the list, that is also possible. So let's see how it is possible. Suppose this is my set and suppose I want to remove the value 30 from my list, that is also possible. So before that I have to print my set. So see, okay, one more. The thing is I have already executed this statement, so uh, again it will not be able to remove the value 30 because once I have executed, the 30 value was already removed. That was, it was giving me the error. Okay, one more thing I want to show you. This is my set, and suppose I am removing the element 40 from my list, and now suppose I am printing it from my set. So 40 will be removed, and see, the 40 is removed from my list and now it is printed. Now suppose again I am trying to execute it, but 40 is already removed from my set, so this will not be possible. So now it is going to throw me the error that now it is not possible to remove 40 because 40 is not there in your list. Okay, next is there are also different type of functions available in your set that you can use by using the dot function. Here you can see these are the different type of functions available with your set. There's also the pop function. If you want, you can also use it. This pop function is used to remove the last value which is entered in your list. So at the last value we have entered the 35. You can see I have entered the 35. So the 35 was added at the top of my list. So 35 will be removed from my set. Okay. So this is all about the set. This is unordered, unindexed. Why it is called as unindexed? Let me tell you. In list and tuples, we have given the index value in the square bracket. So suppose I want to print the 0th element of my index of my set, that is not possible in my set. Why? Because this is unordered and unindexed. And since indexing is not there, so it is not going to print any specific index value. So these are the three different type of data structures we have studied till now. They are very much similar. They are different in some attributes, like they are ordered, unordered, they allow duplicates, they are they are able to modify and not. Okay, so different properties are associated with different type of data structure. So these are the all three data structures we have studied till now. Structure we'll be learning is dictionary. Suppose you are in a situation where you want to store the data like in the form of key and the values. Suppose for certain key you want to store certain value. So suppose here I have taken the data of a person, and after that I am storing their phone number. I'm having the person name, then I'm storing their phone number. I'm having Alice as a person, and then I'm storing their phone number. After the colon, I'm having Bob, and after that I'm storing their phone number, and so on. And so if I'm in a need of such type of data, then I will be in need of dictionary. Okay, so for defining the dictionary, suppose I'm using the keyword as mydic. Okay, and then I'm defining the dictionary. Suppose the same dictionary I'm defining Alice, and Alice is having certain mobile number. So Alice is my key and mobile number is the value. Similarly, I'm having Bob, and Bob is having also certain mobile number. Next is my person as Ria, and they also having some mobile number. Okay, so here my dictionary is created. Here the person name will be my key value, and okay, one more. It is saying the invalid syntax. Okay, actually I have not given the commas. That's why it is giving me the error. Okay, so when I want to print it, I will simply write the dictionary name. My dictionary name is mydic, and see it is printing each value. Each values are separated by comma, and before the colon is the key value, and after the colon is a value. Okay, and in dictionary you can print all the key values. Suppose in mydic I want to print all the key values, so I will use my keys function. So you can see all the key values. Here the key values are Alice, Bob and Ria will be printed. And suppose I want to print all the values only, then I will use the values function. So all the values, that means after the colon, will be printed. Okay, if you want to understand the different type of functions available with your dictionary, you can use the dot function. Okay, so here you can see there are different type of values available with your functions available with your my dictionary. Okay, you can use the pop function to delete the latest entry. Okay, that is giving one type of error, at least one argument. That means the pop function is not working here. Okay, but there are number of operations which are associated with your dictionary also, and that you can search by using the dot operator, and that you can use. Okay, so this is all about the data structures available in your Python. Okay, so in today's lecture we have learned about the different data structures. We have learned about the list, we have learned about the tuples, we have learned about the sets, we have learned about the dictionaries. Okay, and in short I want to say that these four data types are like: list is collection which is ordered and it is changeable, and it also allows the duplicate members. Tuple is also the collection of items which is ordered and unchangeable, and it allows the duplicate members. We have seen we have added 10 in the tuple. Set is basically the collection which is unordered and unindexed. So accessing the elements using the index value was not possible, and it doesn't allow any duplicate members. Next thing is dictionary. Dictionary is a collection which is unordered, it is changeable, and it is also indexed. Okay, and no duplicate members are also allowed. Okay, so this is all about the data structures we have learned today. So based on this data structure, the only conclusion that I want to say is, when choosing collection type, it is useful to understand the properties of that type. We have to understand that which type of data we are in need of, and based on that data we are supposed to or program a module. Okay, so choosing the right type of data for a particular data set could mean the retention of meaning, and it could be mean an increase in efficiency or increase in the security. So before doing any type of programming, you have to make sure which type of data type you're in need of, and you have to properly select it, and only after selecting the proper data type you'll be able to do the efficient programming that will be the secured one also. Okay, so in today's lecture, we have learned a different type of things. In the starting, we have seen what do you mean by Python, what are the features of Python, and after that we have seen the different applications related with your Python. After that, we have seen what are the different IDEs, integrated development environments available for the Python. In that, we have seen the command line. We have seen the Python, how we can execute the code in Python. Next, we have seen how to execute it in VS Code, how to execute it in PyCharm, how to execute it in your all the environment, as well as we have seen in the Google Colab, and all the hands-on we have executed right now on the Google Colab. And we have also seen about the operators, how many type of operators are there. We have also seen about the data types, what are the different data types available in your Python, and we have taken each one of them in detail, and we have taken the hands-on based on them. We have also seen what are the different functions associated with these data types and how we can execute them. Okay, so this is all about the day one session. These are the contents that I have elaborated in the today's session. So I want to thank you all for patiently listening to uh, this particular workshop, and I'm very thankful for patiently watching and giving the responses and attending this webinar. So I thank you one and all here, and thank you so much for making this Python workshop day one a successful one. And don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. It is very much important. And the session 2 will be continued by the Professor Ratnesh Chaudhary in the day 2. Thank you.